Hey guys, Retro Dude here. Thanks for visiting my channel again where we check out all things retro. I do focus mainly on playing video games, but occasionally I'll veer off into anime, cartoons, movies, toys, basically anything retro. I'll take a look at it. And even if it's not retro, if it's good, it's good. We'll check it out. So recently I played a game, Castlevania for the NES. And today I wanted to go in and check out Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Not Castlevania 2 for the Game Boy, so don't confuse the two. Admittedly, I never played Castlevania 2 for the Game Boy, so I can't tell you how good it was or not. Now the game's official release was 1987. I do remember us going to actually buy the game. It was either in 88 or 89, around that was here in the States. So obviously the games were released a little bit later in the States due to translation taking a little while longer than it does nowadays. So the premise of the game is after the events of the first part where you kill Dracula, you're actually cursed by Dracula before you were able to deal the final blow or whatever. So the quest is basically going to different mansions and collecting the different pieces of Dracula to put them all together and seal them again and undo your curse. Now the different parts, you get a heart, you get an eye, you get a rib, you get a nail, and you get a ring for some reason. That's part of Dracula. What's cool about it is, like, as you're collecting these different pieces, you actually get power-ups with these pieces. So for example, the rib gives you a shield, the heart unlocks a secret path that you need to take, the eye lets you see secrets, and etc. The game does have very little grinding on it, which I actually cut on my playthrough. So if you guys want to check out the playthrough, I recommend you guys do. I cut out all of those grinding sessions where I needed to get money for weapons or just leveling up. But this is the first in the series to actually implement what would later be known as the Metroidvania genre. So you're able to basically grind for money, you're able to level up, you're able to backtrack. So the non-linear gameplay was actually implemented on this game. This is the first for a Castlevania series. You're able to buy power-ups, level up. So all of these different RPG elements were implemented into a action adventure game. A cool little thing too, it was one of the first games, if not the first that I can remember, to actually implement day and night cycles, and it actually implemented it very well, I have to admit. So because you're cursed during the night creatures actually get stronger. So if they would only take one or two hits, they take twice as much during the night. The cool part about it though is that at night they actually give you more money or more experience for killing said monsters. Another thing that was pretty rare in those days is it has multiple endings. So you get a bad, you get a good, and you get the best ending on that. And I think it depends on how fast you beat the game. I actually uploaded all three endings on my playthrough. So if you go through the whole playthrough and you check out the endings, you'll be able to see all three different endings on that. Another thing that it had, which was pretty cool, especially back in those days, is it had multiple paths. So even to this day, like, there's paths that I didn't know. Starting to play this game again, I hadn't played this game in 30 plus years. So there was this path that we would normally take when we were playing the game, that we dubbed it the impossible jump. So there's this little section where, well, there was nowhere else to go as far as we knew except through this spot, and you had to make what we called the impossible jump because it was hard as hell, man. So basically, like, through trial and error, we were able to make that jump, but it took like 5, 10 continues for us to be able to make that jump. It's because it's basically very, very difficult to make, but it is doable. So I don't know if people nowadays actually try to do it, and they probably just assume you can't do it. Well, I mean, we were stubborn. We didn't have strategy guides. It was either get the money to buy the game or get the money to buy the strategy guide. You can't get two, man. You can't have a cake and eat it too. So we did it. We did it without any strategy guide. And back in those days, obviously there was no Google to go search that out. So on my playthrough, I actually did the new way to go about it, which is there's a section where you have to get a ruby, and that teleports you close to that section of the impossible jump. Uh, but uh, it was actually fun just remembering that stupid jump that gave us so many headaches. So it is a platformer, so do expect to die on those crazy jumps once in a while. Now, it's not as cheesy as it is on some of the other platforms. What I mean by that is, for example, Castlevania. You jump and there's like a Medusa head coming your way. Uh, that's cheesy. Like, you don't know that that Medusa is gonna appear as soon as you make that jump, so you're gonna die. And I consider that cheesy because if you've never played the game, you're gonna die. Simple as that. Once you played it, you know the Medusa is gonna appear as soon as you approach that edge, so you can just wait it out and you'll be fine. But that's what I call those cheap deaths that platformers are infamous for, especially back in the 8-bit era. But luckily, Simon's Quest did not have those. Now, graphically, I didn't notice that it actually changed much over the Castlevania version, which was just a year before it. So now, to give them credit where credit is due, they did completely revamp most of the enemies. So you don't really see the same enemies from Castlevania 1 show up here on Castlevania 2, which is actually pretty cool in my opinion. You get an all new set of enemies. Backgrounds are a bit more diverse because you're not trapped in the confines of the castle, but it's not like Castlevania was too, you get me? So you still had the gardens, you still had the dungeons. So I don't think it was that much of a change in this sense. Like you were playing outside, but graphically, I don't think it changed much. Even the backgrounds from Castlevania 1 to Castlevania 2. Dracula himself actually looks a lot weaker than he did on the first part. I gotta say, I mean, he does look bigger, but he was so easy. It was actually pretty disappointing how easy this guy was. I mean, I shot him with a gold dagger, basically that burns a little bit when you hit it, when it hits an enemy. So I think I shot him like 3 times and boom, he's dead. It was that simple. But in a game like this, it's not so much the final boss that's like the payoff, it's the quest that's the payoff. And we'll talk a little bit about how enjoyable that was. So musically, it has a very small musical score. I think I counted like 6 or 7 different songs. For a Castlevania game, that's actually pretty slim. However, check these gems out, man. The first one you're greeted with as soon as you start the game is the Silence of Daylight, which is the town section. Absolutely beautiful score on that. Then, when you walk outside of the town, you get one of the most, if not the most popular song in Castlevania, Bloody Tears. This thing has been remixed so much on video games and YouTube all around. Like, you hear so many renditions of this song, and it's so well made that I don't think wherever you listen to it, it's gonna sound absolutely phenomenal. In my opinion, this was probably the weaker of all of those different musical scores that I'm talking about right now. And that's not to say that it sucked, it's just to say how good these other ones that I already mentioned to you were. Then you get the castle walls, which is basically once you get to the castle and you're gonna put all of the pieces back together to undo your curse. There's a musical piece right there, musical score that actually sounds pretty decent. I like it. But you don't listen to it too much, especially on this game, because that once you get to there, that's end game. So once you get to it, like 2 or 3 minutes later, you're fighting Dracula. So you don't really get to enjoy that music, that song as much as you did the Bloody Tears or the Silence of Daylight. And lastly, the other one that I can remember, I think they call it a Requiem, which is the end of Simon's Quest. Very beautiful piece as well. Now, let me just stop right there and just so we can talk about it. You guys know me. I love music and video games. And even though I said there's slim pickings on this one, all of these songs are absolutely very well made. I enjoyed the hell out of them. And if you remember, I told you that this game is a non-linear gameplay, so you have to go back and forth. It's like on my playthrough, I actually cut a lot of that out. But as you're grinding, you never really get tired of listening to these beautiful scores. I mean, they just sound absolutely amazing, especially if you consider that you're listening to them on an NES console that was limited hardware wise on what they could reproduce. So I gotta tip my hat to the composer Hitoshi Akamatsu. The guy is a true genius at his craft. This game never gets old just because of the music. You're listening to that and you're backtracking, coming back and forth, you're grinding, and the music is just so great that it elevates that fun factor, that gameplay of it. And I'm a big proponent of that. So I do think that the game was so enjoyable, so much more enjoyable because of the music. And yes, I had a complete blast playing this game. From memory, I actually thought of this game as the weaker of the three, just because I didn't remember too much of it. I do remember that, well, I did remember that it didn't have that many songs in it. So maybe that's why I remembered it less than I do the other two for the NES. I mean, I just gotta throw that out there. I hadn't played this game in 30 plus years. So it's not like I just picked it up as like, oh, I remember all of this. No, I didn't. So reliving all of these different little things that were lost in my mind and some that I did remember, it was a complete blast playing it. I do recommend you guys checking it out because you will enjoy this game. If you enjoy music in any aspect of it, like I said, if it's good, it's good. And it doesn't matter if it sounds just the 8-bit version, MIDI version, or a whole orchestra playing it. This is very, very well crafted musical pieces, and you will enjoy it. And I'm not even talking about the gameplay aspect of it, which was actually very solid. Uh, Again, it was the beginnings of what we will later be called Metroidvania, and that is a very popular genre. So I do recommend you guys checking out my playthrough. It probably clocks in at around an hour and a half, so it's not a long watch. You will enjoy it. I guarantee it, because I enjoyed the hell out of this game just playing it. And I had to do all the grinding, which I cut for you guys. So it's just gonna be a straight shot through all the game. It's gonna be a blast. So if you guys have been following me, I've already checked out Castlevania 1. Today we checked out Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. I will be checking out Castlevania 3 to complete the whole NES pack, basically, and to see how good all of these three are. So as we stand right now, it's 2 for 2. Both of these games have been absolutely amazing. They're classics for a reason, man. Like, even to this day, to these standards, like, I enjoy the new games. Don't get me wrong. I do share these retro games with you guys, because I want you guys to enjoy them as much as I did, or I to this day do. But I do like the new games. For example, my favorite game of all time to this day is The Witcher 3. So don't think that I'm just focusing on, well, just retro games and all of that. No, I just want to reintroduce beautiful pieces of this art that could be lost in time just because you're stuck in what's new, playing the Fortnite, playing the Call of Duties, playing whatever's coming out new. So let's not forget what made all of that possible, and give a little nod now and again to these great retro games that are just as a blast to play as it was 30 years ago. With that said, I will be taking a look at part 3, and I don't think it's gonna disappoint at all. I remember that one being actually the one that I enjoyed the most playing it, because musically it is the best of the three. And that's not to say these two suck. I mean, if you take anything away from it, is I enjoy these games. I enjoy playing them so much, just listening to the music. And I know part 3, it was even better on that. I think they added something to the hardware that actually made it sound a little bit better than it did on this first 2 versions of it. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to play part 3, and I hope you guys are to check it out with me as well. With that said, thanks for joining me. If you guys enjoy what I'm doing, please click the subscribe button. Hit me with a thumbs up. If you guys have any suggestions for me, put them in the comment section below. I will be checking them out. And as always, stay retro.